Okay, let's learn about plyometrics. Yay! I always do that when I'm like introducing MetaFit. I'm like, yay! Okay, the goal of plyometrics, pretty much to produce as much force as you can. So I like these formulas because it's just obviously says like how do we produce the max amount of power. We're going to do that either the two equations, force times velocity, or work divided by time. Obviously you want it to be fast, and if you can move a lot of weight really fast, even better. And so we're going to go over some terminology first. Does anyone know the difference between a jump, a hop, and a bound?
Jump, 2 legs.
Okay.
Hop, single leg, landing on single leg. Bound, single leg, landing on opposite
leg. Beautiful. Yep. So it can just get really confusing, especially between a jump and a bound, especially when you're labeling it like as you program it, or if you're reading someone's program, you're like, what the heck does this mean? I don't know what you want me to do. So jump is a double leg takeoff to a double leg landing. A hop is one leg takeoff to the same leg landing. And then a bound is going to be the opposite leg landing. And then I threw this in because I know Joseph likes Greek words and stuff. So plyometric comes from the Greek word plyo and metric. So does anyone know what plyo means? No. You don't?
No, I'm
yes.
Really
I was like hoping you wouldn't. So it means more. Anyone know what metric means? It's probably a little bit easier than you think. It just means measure. So plyometric literally just means more measure, which I think is pretty cool because we're obviously trying to get as much power as we can out of it. And so oh. And so to first understand plyometrics, let's understand the mechanisms of it, one of them being the stretch shortening cycle. And so before we kind of get into it, we're going to get up and do stuff. And then it's going to help understand it when we do it. So everyone stand up and put your stuff down. Hopefully this doesn't... You can, I guess. Okay, so we're probably gonna do like 4 different jumps. The first one we're gonna start with is you guys are gonna start in the bottom of a squat. You're gonna hang out there for a second, and then I just want you to jump as high as you can. Okay, just try like 1 or 2 of those. Pause, and then jump as high as you can. Okay, your second one is going to be you're allowed to dip into it. So you can start with your hands above your head, you can dip into it, and then I want you to jump as high as you can. Do 1 or 2 of those. Beautiful. Okay, your third one is you are allowed to dip, but I want you to pause before you jump. So dip, pause, jump. Ready to go. And then your last one is another dip, but nice and slow, like count to 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can jump as high as you can. This microphone's gonna catch me breathing hard. Okay, what jump did you feel like you could jump the highest with? Or I guess I'll start with which jump did you feel like you couldn't jump as high with?
The slow eccentric. Yep.
Slow eccentric. What other slow, the first one?
Squat and then try to jump.
Good. Which one did you feel like you could do the highest with? Like I just can't jump. Okay. Okay, good. Okay, you guys can sit down. We're gonna explain why maybe one jump felt like you can jump higher than the second jump or whatever. And so the stretch shortening cycle has to deal with 3 type of phases. You have your eccentric, your amortization, and your concentric. And so obviously, like, think about the jumps we did, which ones were only concentric focus, which ones did have an eccentric, which ones maybe had a long or a short amortization phase. And so obviously your eccentric is your stretch, and what's happening as you stretch is where elastic energy is stored in your tendons, which I thought was actually really interesting. In my brain, I'm like, oh, it's stored in your muscles, but it's mostly stored in your tendons. And I like to put this little formula over here because I hated physics, like learning it for my major, but I do remember doing this equation, and it just kind of reminds me, like, yeah, I did hate physics, but there is an application to what we do here. And it's talking about, like, elastic potential energy is what happens when elastic material is deformed, or in this case, stretched. And so it also talks about a spring, which I think is really useful. If you think about a spring, like if you stretch it or compress it, it's gonna bounce after you let it go. So it's the same way that we can think about, like, our tendons and everything while we're jumping. And then this is also what you might call, like, our counter movement jump or our pre-dips, but it's kind of confusing because not all counter movement jumps, or like when you do your counter movement jump, that's an eccentric, but you also might have an eccentric part of your phase if you're landing because you're reabsorbing that force. So if you ever, I've always heard like counter movement and I just never understood what it actually meant, but it just means the opposite direction of where you're trying to jump. And then the second phase is going to be the amortization, your transition. You want to make this as short as possible so you don't lose energy. Usually that energy just gets lost through heat. So think about the jump that we came down, we paused, and then we jumped really high, or the one that we did no pause. Think about which one you felt higher in. And then the last phase is going to be our concentric, obviously our shortening, your muscles contracting. So this is where the elastic energy that's been stored is released, which leads to force production. So those are the 3 phases. Hopefully you felt, obviously, that your concentric jump was like one of the lowest ones because you had no eccentric phase. You didn't have any elastic energy being stored into the tendons, so you didn't have as much to release. Hopefully you felt, obviously, that the counter movement jump was pretty high. With the one that we paused at the bottom, maybe it felt strong but not as strong because you paused at the bottom, you lost some of that elastic energy. And then the long eccentric, think about, like, as you're going down into your eccentric, do I want to make it long? Do I want to make it short? What happens if I make it long or short? And then another mechanism that also helps with jumping or plyometrics is our stretch reflex. And so you have these muscle spindles that live in your muscle, but they run parallel to the muscle belly. And so what they do is they detect, like, how long a muscle is, how short it is. And when a muscle is stretched, it's like, hey, whoa, like, calm down, and it will force it to contract. So when a muscle is stretched, then your muscle spindles go, okay, let's contract. And so that's another mechanism that helps with when you're doing jumps. So we're gonna kind of come back to these principles because we're gonna practice some jumps and upper body plyos. So think about, like, the reason why maybe I'm getting this max force production is because of the stretch shortening cycle or because of the stretch reflex. And so we're gonna stand up again and we're gonna go through just how you might progress plyometrics and go from one to the next. So the first one we're gonna do is a jump in place. So go ahead and do 3 jumps in place. Okay, pretty simple, right? Okay, yay. Aubrey's having a good time. I'm having a great time. And then, okay, how would I progress this? Okay, let's go forward 3. Make sure you don't run into anything. 3 hops forward, ready, go. Yeah, watch out for your neighbor. Oh, I kind of skipped one. That's okay. We kind of went to multiple linear jumps, but you get the idea. 1 jump, 3 jumps. Okay, now you're gonna make a box. You're gonna go forward, lateral, backwards, back to lateral. Okay, go ahead.
Wait,
Forward, lateral, backwards, lateral. Yeah, you're making a box. Okay, now we're gonna move on to hops. So hops is, what is a hop again?
Same leg.
Exactly, okay. Do a couple hops on 1 foot. And then do 1 hop forward. Stick the landing. Okay, walk backwards. Okay, do 3 hops forward. And now make a box again. Forward, lateral. You can make a tiny box, backwards, lateral. Beautiful. Okay, bounds. Bounds are fun. We're gonna take these nice and slow because I don't want anyone's Achilles breaking or anything bad happening. But you're gonna start on 1 leg, you're gonna hop, land on the other leg. So just practice like going forward, trying the other side. Oh gosh. Okay, your next one is gonna be your death jump. So we can use, let's get out some risers, let's get out some boxes, and I'll show you what a death jump is.
80-inch stack, let's go.
Yeah, crazy.
What did you say? 80-inch stack, let's go. I'll do it. Eyes closed. I'll do it.
So as you're doing this one, think about the stretch shortening cycle and why it works the way it works. I'm gonna start on the little box. Okay, death jump. You're gonna come off it, absorb your landing, and then you're gonna jump as high as you can. So if I'm here, you also don't need to make it super fast. Like, take the time to kind of absorb that force. So here, jump as high as you can. So go try a couple and see, like, okay, try a couple heights. Drop, absorb, jump as high as you can.
Do you care how long the absorption is?
Not too long, but not super fast. Not super fast, but don't hang out there forever.
Arms, no arms.
You choose. I would say arm. You choose, yeah.
Depends if it's like true kind of.
Yeah. Try a couple different heights. Try a couple different heights. See how it feels. Which one do you feel maybe highest with? Do you go hands on your hip?
Yeah. So then if you're like calculating RSI, just your index, and it's just your spring.
Yeah.
Whereas you're going DSI, you absorb the force.
Okay.
If you're on the tall box, don't put down.
What?
Because the fan's right there.
I'm not tall enough.
Okay, we feel pretty good. Okay, we can just push the boxes to the side. I've seen some high school and like college people go crazy high.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a diving board. Like, what? Okay, did you guys feel pretty high with that? Relatively. Again, some of it's also just a coordination thing. If you're hanging out for too long in the bottom, you're not gonna feel super high, or if the coordination is off, it depends. But hopefully you felt as you were able to land, your tendons are absorbing force or energy, and then you're able to release it as you go back up. And so the next, I have this video from Instagram. I just really like it because it simply explains how to like progress something. I think it gets I think we sometimes complicate it way too much. But let's watch this video.
He's also great.
Changing the plane, like that's super simple, but it elevates what he was doing before. And then he's doing single contact jumps. So I follow this guy on Instagram. He's cool. He does he'll do like sprinting drills too with the kids, which I think he just makes it fun, which is also super important.
Really fun sprinting drills. Who is that? Dr. Drac Performance? Is that what it is?
Yeah, Drac Performance, yeah. Where are we going?
He does all the time like angular ones too. Like he'll stand at the end of a circle, not too big, and throw a ball.
Yeah.
In the moment the ball is like, he's a great guy.
Okay, so now we're gonna go over intensive versus extensive plyos. There's a test coming up after this, so be prepared. Okay, so your intensive plyos are gonna be your plyos that are gonna put a pretty large demand on your central nervous system and your tissues. So think max intent here. The goal of this is to maximize power or the rate of force development. And so think like what we just did, your force absorption jumps, leading into an explosive output. And so as we saw, this is pretty dependent on the stretch shortening cycle. And then your next type of jump is going to be your extensive. These are more low impact frequency or low impact intensity, but because it's lower impact, we can do a little bit higher frequency. These build a lot of things and trains a lot of things, whether it be rhythm or coordination or tendon stiffness, work capacity, landing mechanics, a bunch of stuff. And so we're gonna watch, I'm a visual person. You tell me something, like you tell me a name of an exercise, and I'm just like, I don't really know what you're talking about. So I pulled up a couple videos from YouTube that's gonna show you a jump, and then we're gonna talk about whether it's extensive or intensive and why. And I didn't pull any I know there was some that were on like in our app, but it was just easy to pull off YouTube. So not degrading us, it was easier. And so.
I don't need to be right, I need to get it right. So if there's something wrong, you're like,
Please,
"Oh, the weird
go-
ones who made these bad."
Yes. Okay, so first one we're gonna start with is this hurdle jump. I know some of the videos, some of these videos, I was like, I really don't like this video, but it will be okay, I guess. Oh, it is playing sound. Okay, what do we think it is? Extensive or intensive? And you can kind of put yourself in their shoes too. Like, if I was doing this, okay, why?
Because it's single jump and it's very explosive, it's maximizing power to get up over the hurdle.
Okay, anyone want to add to it, or maybe be like, no, Krill, you're wrong.
What a way to phrase that. Wrong! I think it could be extensive.
Yeah.
Depending on, it doesn't look like he's trying for max hurdle efforts.
Yeah.
Or distance.
Yes.
Time on the ground.
That's why I don't love this video.
But it does seem like there is like a lot of like quick transition.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if I were doing it, it would be very
Yeah.
intensive.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, if you put me on that hurdle, like, and I had to jump over it 4 times, like, that would be really, like, a lot. That would just be a lot for me. But this guy makes it look pretty easy. So, good. I'm glad you guys are arguing this part. So, good. Okay, next one. Okay, this one will.
What's your opinion on it?
Okay, if I was to do it, I think it's intensive. But if the way he did it, I think it's a little extensive because he doesn't look like he's trying that hard. So I think yeah. Joseph, would you like to add anything? Joseph looks like he wants to say something.
More extensive projects.
Yeah, and so when I look at the way he's jumping, he's not an elastic athlete. Like, he is very muscular dominant, so he's a power-based athlete. So for him, each one is not going to look intensive. It's going to express as an extensive type movement. But I think what the movement is by nature and what you're getting towards is intensive. He just
Makes it look.
he's not springy. He's not intensive. So
Yeah.
he's absorbing, yes, with a lot of force, producing, yes, with a lot of force, but it's very muscular that he's getting up off the ground, as opposed to quick shortness.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if they were lower hurdles, it could be considered more extensive.
Wow, look at the next video we're gonna watch.
I think I've been set up.
Yeah, lower hurdles.
These ones look very extensive.
Yeah.
I would fall on the other ones.
Yeah, and thinking, I'm like, that guy looked like he could probably go pretty forever, not forever, but thinking about like, oh, our extensive one is gonna be high frequency, you could probably do a good amount of hurdle jumps. Okay, next one. Box jumps. CrossFit. Okay, you guys know what a box jump is, but that's kind of loud. Okay. What do you guys think?
Doing box jumps wrong.
I know, that's what I was thinking, but I kept the video in because
She's trying to do sumo straight knee or pseudo straight knee.
yeah.
I would say it's
What'd you say, James? Extensive, yeah. Yeah, I feel like I would agree. Like when I did box jumps in CrossFit, I felt like I could go pretty like long, but I do think it depends because how high is the box? Yeah, exactly. How high is the box? Are we doing like this or are we going as high as we can? And I feel like the way that she's doing it is almost like a backward, like the way that she's rebounding off the floor so fast, it's just a backward depth jump to a box. So that would be considered intensive. So I feel like it also depends. Okay, next one. Oh, I love this video because you hear the word bound and I don't know, I heard the word, like you hear the word bound and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna die. But this person does it in a way that doesn't seem so scary, but then he shows like what you could build up to.
Which level are you?
So this is like what we were doing earlier, but this might be like, you know, your athletes, your, you know, elite athletes, and then this one's his doing single leg, yeah.
Those are so pretty.
Good video.
If any of you have never tried doing that, it is one of the most difficult things to do. Is single leg down, single leg up. It is miserable. Your timing has to be perfect.
Okay, what do we think?
Intensive, or extensive to intensive.
Every answer is that. So what do you, like, let's say, okay, let's watch the video again. What would this be?
That's extensive.
Yeah, probably in the middle, in, yeah, okay.
Extremely intense.
Great, okay. Extremely intense. Okay, good.
Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah,
What we all made?
I do. Is that okay?
I thought you wanted to argue.
No, I don't, not that one. Okay, this one, line hops, this one, I pulled 2 videos forward, this one's lateral. Again, and the simplicity, how can I change the line hop? Just change the plane. What do you guys think? Yeah, you can think like your warm-ups, again, high frequency. Do you guys notice anything weird about like this slide? Whoops. So, yeah, something along, yeah, you're along the right lines. Is anything weird about the name maybe? A hop, but he's not hopping. Yeah, so technically it's gonna be a line jump. Anyways, I found that out, like as I was going and pulling up videos, like I would find a video, but it was named wrong technically. So it's just confusing. So good luck. Anyways, she's like, and so, yeah. Yeah, it's, because if, let's say you didn't see any video and someone told you to do a line hop, and you're like, okay, well, I know a hop is 1 foot, and a line, okay, maybe back, like, right? Like, it just helps to keep it the same.
Even the last one, he went from, they were
yes, they were,
line, or they were, what were they called?
Sing the bounds? Yes, and then he went to a hop. Yeah, exactly. So just look out for those, but just realize that they're used like pretty interchangeably. So just a heads up.
Like balance and stability at this point.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Okay, skipping drills. A skip, B skips, C skips. What is it? Yeah. Again, warm up. This is what you do. I'm gonna skip this one. We already did it. Or well, I guess what is it? Like, what would it be considered? Yeah, because you're trying to reach max power output. And so this is a drop jump. I looked up a video. I'm like, what? Like drop jump? And then it showed a video that looked exactly like the death jump, and then I got really confused. So I feel like this guy actually explains it pretty well. So let's watch it.
Let's take a look at the main differences between the death jump versus the drop jump. The death jump involves larger ranges of knee flexion with longer contact times with the aim to jump as high as you can. Whereas the drop jump requires much higher levels of leg stiffness by pushing off the ground as quick as you can, putting a greater emphasis on the stretch shortening cycle.
Okay. So first, what's the difference between a drop jump and a depth jump? And I can play the video again if you guys want to see it.
One is more amortization phase and one is less.
Yeah, one's stiffer. He doesn't get as much flexion, and then the drop one doesn't get as much flexion, but the depth one does. So what would this one be considered? Extensive or intensive? James is like... What do you say to that?
I would say the intent is to reach a speed as fast as possible with a short. You're trying to train an amortization phase as fast as possible. So your effort is pinned down, but you're constraining how much muscle you can do versus how much tendon you can.
Yeah, it gets, and what do you have? Oh.
That is all correct.
Yeah.
If you had force plates, you'd be looking at, on one of them, where you're coming down, utilizing the leg, the rate of force development.
Yeah.
So how much force you can develop and at what rate does that occur, right? And so then you can see like what's being absorbed, what's being produced, how long it's taking, how long your flight time is. Whereas if you're looking at the stretch shortening cycle, you're looking at and using force plates to check RSI, so your reactive strength index. And so that's where you're comparing the two differences between a static squat jump and the stretch shortening cycle that's happening in a counter movement jump. So because you're going short and quick, you're trying to see how quickly you can transfer that power to get up, but both would be still intensive.
Thanks, Joseph. Yeah, it gets kind of in the weeds. In a couple slides, we're gonna talk about just the different, like, okay, like, yeah, how long do you want your amortization phase and like why? So that's coming up. Anything else about this one? Okay. Pogo jumps. He talks for a little bit, blah, blah, blah.
Think about bringing your toes up to the sky. So we want that nice
punchy contact on the floor.
Okay, extensive or intensive? Why?
Lower impact, high frequency.
Yeah.
Rhythm.
Yep. And so, we're gonna go on a small tangent. As you saw in his video, he was bringing his toes up in his pogo jump. So why do you guys think we would bring up our toe? Like, why would we want that? Why would I cue someone like that?
Ankle stiffness.
Yep.
Putting ankle stiffness.
So we're gonna by bringing up our toes and dorsiflexion, we're gonna increase ankle tendon stiffness, which therefore leads to a more efficient SSC, which you'll lose less energy because you have a short ground contact, which is gonna improve jump performance. So again, thinking of a spring, if I have a spring, like, an old spring that you found in the back of your closet that's been there for 6 years, probably not gonna be as elastic and as springy as a new spring. Same way it kind of works here. You want tendons that are stiff, not tendons that are flopping. Do whatever. And so, but that's the question I had about like the depth jump versus the drop jump. Like, okay, so like your drop jump, you obviously want to be pretty stiff, but in a depth jump, you want to absorb the force. And so, another tangent. Why would we want to train minimal contact time, so think your drop jumps, versus absorption and development of force, thinking about your depth jump? Like, why would we want to train one aspect versus the other?
Because there's two unique qualities we can train.
Okay, but what are those qualities?
How the muscle reacts through the tendon and how stiff the tendon can be. Because you want your muscle to be able to produce a lot of force through the tendon, but you also don't want your tendon compliant. You want it very stiff so that when the muscle pulls, it pulls quickly, and there's less time it takes to pull on the tendon. It snaps shut and then springs the leg back forward. So you want a stiffer spring, but you want the meat of the spring, which is the muscle, to be really, really strong.
Okay, good. Yeah, so this is where what Joseph was talking about, like your reactive strength index. When you're trying to train reactivity, that would be your jump height divided by your contact time on the ground. And so some jumps, you're wanting to test speed and reactivity. And that usually deals with a short stretch shortening cycle. And then maybe your other jumps where you're absorbing a little bit more force, you're going for max power output, the rate of force development like Joseph was talking about. This would be good if you wanted to train landing mechanics, again, how you're absorbing force, maybe the acceleration, but this is more of like the long SSC. And so, but I still was like pretty confused at this point. I was like, okay, so in my brain, like, because we talked about it earlier as we did our jumps, because you don't want too long of an eccentric. You also don't want too long of an amortization phase. So it kind of seemed like, as I was learning about drop jumps, you want to be stiff, you want to be quick. I was like, wait, what about the depth jumps? I was like, didn't we just say if you make your amortization phase too long or your eccentric phase too long, then you're not going to be able to produce power? So it didn't really make sense in my brain. So I kind of saw it like, I tried to stop seeing it as like this versus that, but really just like, okay, both use the stretch shortening cycle, but in different ways. And so this slide pretty much repeats the other slide, but it labels it as if we're training if we're using the stretch shortening cycle in a short phase, which would be like under 150 milliseconds of ground contact, we're trying to train stiffness, reactive time, reactive strength, coordination. And then if you're gonna use the stretch shortening cycle in a long way, you're gonna try and train, you're gonna be above 250 milliseconds, but you're training for more power output, energy return, stuff like that. Any questions about that? You can ask Joseph.
Is MS meters per second?
I think it's milliseconds,
Oh,
but maybe.
milliseconds, okay.
Let's see what's next, because I don't remember. Oh yeah, programming. So it depends on if you're beginner, you're intermediate, you're advanced. Also depends if we're intensive versus extensive. I also like this table that I stole from Joseph because you can see that the intensive is max intent, so you're resting more. Just like what we do in here, if you're doing max strength, you're gonna rest more. I also like these little phrases at the bottom that kind of help me remember them. Your extensive is gonna be frequency before intensity. Your intensive is intensity before frequency. And so, how much time do we have?
Well, we have a reservation at noon, but if we're all late, then.
Okay. No, it's okay.
Is the ground, sorry, I can let you go on. Is
Yeah.
the ground contacts for beginners, intermediate, advanced, is that a combination of extensive and intensive?
So I honestly think so I stole this from the strength and conditioning book that I can't remember off the top of my head. I don't think this is taking into account this.
Okay.
I don't even think the book even talks about this. Yeah, I don't think it does.
They're
So
saying like net ground contacts
yeah,
are there.
yeah. So that is also confusing because it doesn't define the two. But I mean, this is beginner, how many, I don't know. What beginner is really gonna do too many intensives? Probably not. So just taking that into account. Okay.
It's a guideline.
Yeah. Okay. Next. Oh, okay. So I think combos of plyos are just so cool and fun because you can there's just a million different ways you can combine it to make it more fun and interesting. Because if you're gonna make someone box jumps for 6 months, it's just gonna get boring. So I'm just gonna show a couple videos that I have seen on Instagram that I really like that combine different combos of plyometrics. So again, changing the plane. He gets crazy here and changes the plane, but then he adds in like a bound, sorta like a skater bound. This one's cool because he changes directions mid-flight, which I thought was really cool. And then I have a couple of these videos. This is gonna be.
Did you know that how far you can jump is directly?
Can I pause this? Repeat broad jumps. This is such like a simple, oh, do a broad jump. Okay, do it twice in a row now. Oh, do it 3 times in a row. Or same thing with the vertical. It's such a simple change, but it makes it harder. And I feel like we have to make it we have to make plyometrics complicated in order to progress an athlete or a person or whatever, but repeat broad's pretty simple, but again, it's going to be really hard.
Correlated to how fast you're going to be off of the line. This is because both movements have similar physical qualities, meaning that they are more power and muscular driven at the beginning. And it is because of the amount of horizontal displacement that you are producing. So try these broad jump variations.
He kind of gets crazy at the end. When you're combining broad bounds with something else, yeah, it's kind of crazy. This guy is pretty cool. He does youth athletes. So not all of his page is plyometrics. He does also his training or just his regular training. Okay, let's add in a med ball. Okay, lateral jump to a vertical jump.
Great, doing great.
And then this video.
was a good one. That was a clean rep.
Okay. Yeah. So like the video on the right, okay, we're gonna jump over a hurdle, jump onto a box. Okay, now we're gonna do it laterally. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so, like duh, like yeah, we could totally do that. So these kids are pretty young, but they do it pretty efficiently, which I also think is cool. But it just is time and practice. And obviously they've started decently young here. Whoops, sorry. Oh, the
one's the big one. In his notes, sometimes it just says, I want you to jump over it however you think is the most fun. So he'll like walk backwards up to it, or one leg sideways, or running jump. So he just like doesn't have a constraint. I just am like, hey, do whatever you want with this thing.
He has some pops.
Yeah, he does jump really high. That's great.
Okay. What if we're not ready for jumps? I also think like, I don't know, like, especially in here, it's like, why would we want someone to jump? Jim Sweetman was just in here last hour. He's a tennis player. He's on the older side, but he's jumping in here because he plays tennis. So he needs to learn, okay, as I'm, going back and forth from the tennis court, I need to absorb and reabsorb force. But then just think of like, I guess just like how we would always do in here, like when we're trying to program for someone, why do we want to program a jump or a plyometric or whatever? In some cases, it's like, okay, we need them to learn how to catch themselves when they trip, and they need to absorb the force as they are falling. So this is where I could have pulled a ton of videos from Block. So you're gonna, one of the ways that you're gonna train an aspect of plyometrics is your landing mechanics. So this is a snap down, this is a total body extension, just a little bit more focused on getting, right?
Was it a bald guy? Oh, nice. Yeah, it's me.
He had no beard though.
It's me on a bad week.
It was Ethan when he shaved his beard. Actually, he does have beard.
Before I forget to also say this, think of like in the beginning, like when I was like, okay, we're in a bound, and thinking about the guy that did the single leg bounds. I think when we tell a client, I need you to jump, they're like, no. And I think it's because they envision like, obviously like 20-year-olds jumping, but they need to think of themselves jumping, and it doesn't, technically, if I just get like a paper sheet under me, that's a jump. So I think it's also just learning like they can do it, but they just think they have to be 10 levels above where they need to be. And I think also just explaining like, this is for your bones to get stronger, or this is so that when you fall, you don't break your hip or whatever. I know we have this video, depth jump, a little bit more advanced to absorbing that force. You can do any height. You could do one riser. You could do 3 risers. You could do a 12-inch box. I know we have a video that you attach a band to the pole, and then you put yourself in it, and as you step, the band accelerates a little bit more of that acceleration off the box. So that's another way you can train that. Deceleration braking, you guys know how to do a forward lunge. But thinking about how to do a forward lunge, you're decelerating as you're coming down. How would you regress a forward lunge? If you're solely training the part of the deceleration braking, how would you regress a forward lunge? Yeah, exactly. Like you're just stepping off it. Like we're not gonna do the range of motion of a forward lunge, but we're still training the 1-step catch. And again, you can progress that by, okay, let's add 2 steps. Let's add 3 steps. Same thing with the lateral lunge. Same way it works. You're going to deaccelerate your body as you catch it in space. Ankle stiffness, fast marches, just trying to learn like what my body feels when it's catching myself in a fast manner. Okay, that's kind of it for lower body plyos. So now we're gonna move up to upper body plyos. And so you've heard like med ball catches, throws, plyometric push-ups, and that's where I kind of get like, that's it, which is like really frustrating because like, I don't know, like plyometrics does include the upper body, but it's just really, like obviously it's just a lot easier to think about lower body plyometric. And so this I stole off Instagram from a guy that I follow. He trains rugby players. So they like a very contact sport. And so he's kind of did like a tier system of what he thinks is good for training power. Lots of different options in here. You're laughing.
Just the line punches.
Yeah, he apparently does not like those as training for power.
Not a fan of landmine punches.
Nope. Little tangent. I saw this, a push, like a split jerk. I'm like, don't you mean like a lower body plyo? But the way that he was arguing it was that the lower body, like the elastic energy and all the power gets transferred to your upper body. So I was like, okay, I guess I could see that. But then you get like super like upper body, right? Like plyometric push-ups, I feel like is definitely more upper body. So, yeah, I'm not gonna go too into upper body plyos. Again, think about the eccentric or the stretch shortening cycle. It still applies to an upper body movement, even when it's not lower body, obviously. And yeah, that's that. We were gonna try a couple, but.
We can do them if you want to like get through like the content piece, and then when we come back from lunch, will be a good way to transition back in. We can do some upper body.
Okay, great.
Plyometric demos.
Okay. This is my last slide, I think. Oh, I have just one or two more. Debate time. Is sprinting considered a plyometric? And obviously why? So think about it, and I want some good answers. I want some answers here. I'm ready. Is sprinting considered a plyometric? He's gonna ask chat.
Yes?
Why?
It's repetitive.
And you're trying to reach
And you're trying to get as
probably not
maximum
max force,
force.
but the max speed.
I mean, literally output.
And you're constantly.
Okay.
Broad, but it's just not as dramatic.
I would not GBT. I was looking at the textbook definition of what a plyometric is.
On you.
No. Which is the same thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to have a definition of the thing, and then
Yeah. Yes.
it is training a specific quality, which is like the stretch shortening cycle, doing things in very powerful motion. So if I had you do like a off the block sprint for 20 meters, is that a plyometric? Is it a plyometric if it gets to like 1,000 meters? You know, if you're trying to sprint, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it a plyometric? When does it become not a plyometric?
The first two steps.
You think so?
The first two steps I wouldn't consider a plyometric. Because you are trying to stay on the ground as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
You do not want your feet to even leave. You want as much ground contact time as possible. It is literally force output.
Yeah.
It's just that you're trying to improve rate of force development. And then after that, as you become a little bit more upright, by step 7.5, which should be right at 10 meters. If you're an elite sprinter at 10 meters, you should be taking 7.5 steps. Then you're going to transition to that 150 meters or milliseconds that you're having ground contact time. And then from then, it's literally just like you're trying to be as much vertical displacement as possible, which vertical displacement allows for horizontal projection. So yeah, it's like, it's totally plyometric to me, starting at like step 3. you know. And in some athletes that are a little bit like more just muscle dominant, maybe step 4. But yeah, you look at like the greatest like sprinters of all time, Usain Bolt, Noah Lyles, like they are slow off the blocks. Like you almost always see it, and then they look fast towards the end. They're actually not faster than the other athletes towards the end. They're all getting up to that max speed at a certain time. You got like Usain Bolt's world record, he's here, and like everybody else is actually in front of him by step 3, step 4, and then he passes them. He wasn't faster here, he's just able to maintain that speed longer, so he's able to do better elite level plyometrics and just hold on to speed longer. So they're actually slowing down, whereas he's not. Does that make sense?
So that's why
Yeah. Same thing with Noah Lyles, like that race in the 100 meter like Olympic finals. Like everybody else, it looks like he caught up. In essence, he did, but only he slowed down. Yeah.
Okay, so
That's all I would say.
yeah.
But I don't know. It's also,
I don't have an answer.
they're smart. Better.
I agree that after, but then it's tough because if you're in a full sprint and you're working on the fastest stretch shortening cycle you can manage, which is all vertical force displacement,
Yeah.
then and you are in a moment of training that quality,
Yeah.
is that not a plyometric training modality?
I would say
You know
so.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But if you were like, hey, take off on a 100 meter sprint, that's like its own thing, where plyometric feels like you're training quality
Yeah.
for those things.
But her whole depth jump versus drop jump, when you're thinking of a 100 meter sprint or a 200 meter sprint, that's why I would say you need to train both qualities.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you actually, they do show up.
And
or a running back doing what they do. Or
Yeah.
things like that. It's really good.
Yeah.
What is your thought?
I was like, well, isn't sprinting like bounding just really, really fast in a way? So I just was like, yeah. So that's the way I thought about it. I was just like, I feel like it would. But again, it's like, okay, well, if, you know, maybe I'm not going to just have them. Again, we're going to train all quality, so I'm not going to just sprint a lot. I'm going to add in other plyometrics. But
Is skipping plyometric?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Are resisted sprints? What about
Yeah,
resisted
elite
sprints?
sprinting is just skipping
Really
extremely
fast.
fast.
Yeah, that's true.
What about resisted sprint plyometric?
Resisted sprints?
Yeah, like sled sprints. Hill
Uh,
sprints.
yeah, I mean, like, you're just probably making it a lot more, like, intensive, because it's pulling you down, so you're slowing yourself down to then teach yourself how to produce more force.
Yeah.
So I think as long as you don't have such a heavy sled, and that's where it should usually
Yeah.
be between 15 and 30 pounds that you're dragging or pushing, it's
Yeah.
usually pretty light. Because if it's just keeping you on the ground, you're actually probably going to slow that person down.
Sure.
So you're no longer leaving the ground, then it's no longer a
Yeah, sprint.
plyometric.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
Then just the end was, I think it helps us just remember. I think it's hard when you come to things like this, or you go to a certification class and you listen and you do stuff for hours on end, and then you're like, that was great, I loved it, I don't remember what I learned. So if we could just really quickly go around the room and either say one thing you learned or like one thing that was reinforced, if you're like, yeah, I knew all of that. Okay, go.
That I will a lot of times forget that change of direction and or like changing planes doesn't have to be two separate entities in days. Like I could have like adding intensive and extensive into one movement and also doing like multi-planar or like, you know, frontal, sagittal, or transverse, like doing something different in there rather than just like this day you're going this direction, then this day you're going this direction.
Yep.
You can have fun.
Yeah.
You can play around with it.
Yeah.
It's not so serious.
Intensive versus extensive plyometrics. Actually, Joseph used me as an example multiple times with that term. Like, you know the difference, and I'm like, no, why would I? And now I know the difference.
And now,
Thank you for making me
you
down
can
and
always
down
remember,
smarter.
intensive just as intense.
Intense,
Yeah.
right.
Ooh.
Repetitive.
The only thing I remember is that intense is intense.
Intensive is intense. That's good.
You only need to remember one if there's only two.
Right.
Extensive, not.
But no, I
just
mean,
not
it is
that.
nice to think about it, because when you think, and you even hear the term plyometric, like, you don't necessarily put a connotation to it that there would be different types of it, you know, because it's just like a repetitive movement, and you're like, okay, great. But really, it's a lot more in depth than that. So, thank you.
Let's just
I
go
like
down
to
the line.
not insult my wife about not knowing.
You just figured that out.
Well, I'm a slow no, I think I just reminded with our population that although plyometrics are key, one of the phrases I love is the day you stop jumping is the day you start dying. But the reminder that the regression is not just about regressing a jump for sport, but it is about remembering the stretch shortening cycle. And so it's like, how quickly can we get it to actually bound and release, so that, yeah, that's so good.
Going off of the like stretch shortening cycle, I think it's important from like a programming stance, like your emphasis on the depth drops versus the depth jumps, or whatever the two terms were, how going from that like really quick phase transition versus like going into that depth for maximal effort, trying to see if like you want to either work on speed versus like max effort. I think that's really important.
Not really great kind of with that, but also this taking a step back and realizing like what the terminology is, like extensive, intensive, and then how when we're programming, or just even explain kind of like what we're trying to get to, and you know that even though our populations are older people, we can still include variations of these, and also just increase the ability, because once you say, okay, I want you to jump, automatically, no, I can't do this, mine in my head. Oh, okay, excuses, right? Yeah. I think it's putting in perspective, like you said, if you're getting a thin sheet of paper off of you, that's a jump, right? And then just realizing, like, I thought elastic energy was stored in tendons, but sometimes I would think that it would be muscles, so just kind of throwing it out. Okay.
Yeah, it was good to learn about the difference between defensive and offensive. I didn't know there was the two. And then also just knowing the difference between like jump, hop, and bound. I actually didn't know. Since there's stuff that you're trying to use.
Because the block app is all wrong.
Hey, you better. You better.
Can't still be funny all next week.
No, I learned also the difference between a jump, hop, and down. I didn't know that. And extensive and intensive. But I think it's cool to like, it's kind of dependent on like rate of perceived exertion and an individual, intensive versus extensive, kind of both. So,
Yeah, can I add one piece to
Yeah.
that? 'Cause that's actually really key. So like when I think of like intensive versus extensive, with our population we tend to see, not the carrots, but the extensive may be something that we're thinking like, oh, let's just give them a bunch of pogo jumps, not the app, pogo hops. He's now going to recorrect in the app. So, but you're thinking like, oh, it's not as intensive, but one of the things I've noticed is with a lot of those things, we have to be very mindful as coaches programming that the dose, because it's a lot of repetitions. And so to do a lot of repetitions, although not very intensively, that is still volume on the body and volume on the tendons, which can lead to tendinopathies or issues or whatnot, especially if they're really weak. So we just have to be really mindful that it is like, oh, that extensive move for us maybe a 20-second, 30-second, for some of our clientele, maybe 5 seconds. So just to be mindful, that is intensive in feeling to them, even though it's the wrong definition for it.
Yeah, especially if you guys know that they have any metabolic disorders, like diabetes, high blood glucose, which is kind of hand in hand. Those metabolic disorders, which is high blood pressure, but play a huge role in multi-site tendinopathy. So just be aware of that when they're jumping, that people who have metabolic diseases have a much higher tendency for tendon pain, very quickly. And there's almost
the easiest way to understand it is you don't have good circulation in your system because it's blocked by some other disease or some other thing, and tendons barely get any blood flow, right? It's very minute, so then they're just naturally going to degrade. They're not going to be as hydrated. All of these downside things are going to happen. So we want to train it, but we just got to be mindful.
So you would still train it, but we
Slow.
Yeah, and then like.
Yeah, so isometrics first,
Yeah.
then go tempo. Then we could go with some extensive stuff, but probably even it's like more of a snap down or reactive based or deceleration based, like everything that Shaylin was sharing, like those are like laying on my
When
back. Could I do med ball chest pass?
I'll share
patch, right? So then I'm getting one that's
Jake
upper
Turret.
level. Then can I get one that's lower?
Maybe.
So I'm
He's like
spreading
the
it more globally, then making it more intense, even though it is extensive
The thing
in
is
one
like that.
area locally.
None of
I'm
you
trying
have
to
a
think
jet
like,
pop
what
from
else
that
could I
right
do there? And that's where things
double
that,
leg wall
like
sit.
some of the isometric, reactive things like I have with like a lacrosse ball,
This is my
just
demographic.
create that quick
What are your thoughts?
neuron drive, so that I can program it slowly more and more in different ways.
Metabolic
Yeah.
diseases. Because part of his slides
Well, just
were
think of like,
showing
even
what
when
they can
all
do
of us
with
were
evidence.
watching Sharon's video, she's like, is it
They're
intensive
screwed.
or extensive?
You have to
It's
make
like,
it stronger,
well,
it's
what's
going
the
to hurt.
difference?
There's no
Based
question
on
about it.
the individual.
I think the
They're
hard part too
they're
is
too
sometimes,
inflamed,
Yeah.
so.
we know it's gonna demand
And they
more
become
of them,
compliant.
but how much
So they
more
stretch
is
too much.
sometimes what I like
So instead of
struggle with
getting
knowing,
really
because
stiff,
I'm like,
they get
oh, like,
Working
if I do
on it.
this, it's not
Too much
bad
pull, so
for
the
me, but then I'm like, oh, but if
insertion
you're doing
organs
this
of
and
the
you have
tendon
all
or like
these
the
issues,
muscle.
like, it
Mhm.
could be
Very
Tendon and then
Yes.
the muscle.
That's
or tendon
why,
and bone
so that's why
are
we
going
run
to
a
be way
day
too strained.
as like the data,
Because there's
science
not,
data
it's not like
analysis.
stiff
for
compliant in
strips.
the muscle. It's
Yeah.
just
So that she
compliant,
can hopefully
compliant.
help
It's
Yeah.
ripping that
do you
apart.
know the system fatigue score that I talked you through that
Yeah.
I like came up with? Hopefully she can actually make it a thing. So then that way we can actually be like,
Taxing
yeah.
us.
Because you're
Like
right,
having
it's
all
like,
the evidence behind it to support it, so
Right.
then we're like, 'cause sometimes like I feel like I make a decision, I'm like, okay, from what I've learned, it's right,
you
but,
and every other coach in the
but then
entire
there's
United
other,
States.
yeah, right, there's
Yeah.
other things to take into
But there's so
consideration.
much that's just subject to change.
Change,
I
or
mean, it has to, right? Because you're like, oh shoot, well, that was the wrong move, now let's pivot.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, this
Trial
person's
and
young,
error.
no big deal, and then you're like, oh wait, it's like this,
And then before you
this,
know it, they're untrainable.
this phase of their menstrual cycle that's impacting stress, or like there's so many things. So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
The end.
Awesome.
That was
Yeah,
great.
Yeah,
great.
thanks, Shaylin. Well done.